Well, there's increasingly a market for that. There's an outfit called Felony and Mayhem Press in New York. It's an outgrowth of Partners in Crime, the bookstore there, and they are doing books probably from the 80s, 70s through the 90s. The Rue Morgue Press, that used to be a bookstore, they are doing dead authors. They have one living author.
Okay.
Everybody else is a dead author. So most of their books have to be published before 1960, but they're doing a ton of stuff from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And I think since those books don't work for New York publishing anymore, you know, the quantities and all are too small, you're seeing a lot more enterprise in bringing back a lot of classics. And you've got the print technology and other stuff to do that. Curiously enough, we started out doing that, and Death at Charity's Point was going to be part of that. And then we discovered that there was such a good market for original fiction for authors whose books were smaller than big thrillers and all. And because I kind of like doing that, we abandoned the idea of doing older books, and we've moved strictly into original fiction, which is, I have to tell you, really scary. I mean, if you think the first few books we published, you know, I didn't have my heart in my mouth thinking, I don't know what I'm doing here.
I can well imagine.
And it's really been interesting to see. Do you know, we've had a book, the Publishers Weekly Best of 2007 just came out. There we are again.
Oh, you've published some great books.
We really have.
Wonderful authors.
And that's so exciting to me, you know, to bring these new voices out. And we try to introduce, I think we have 4 or 5 first novels on our 2008 list, and then we have repeat authors. And our goal is to try to do 6 to 8 brand new original, you know, unheard voices every year. And that is Suzanne, your editor that we mentioned, or your senior editor for whom Betsy worked at Scribner. I think that her great quality as an editor was that eye she had for finding people like you, or supporting Betsy finding you. But if you think about it, she published Robert Barnard, she published Patricia Cornwell's first novel, she published Kathy Reich's, who's still at Scribner. I'm trying to think, Sharon McCrum when she started her ballad series. There are just so many authors who owe, Deborah Crombie, who owe their, you know, their careers to Suzanne's ability to say, you know, here's something people would like to read and be heard, and to develop those authors and get them out. So I think you must feel, I would feel if I were you anyway, really, really good that Suzanne, that you were able to be part of that.
Well, I do. I mean, like I say, this feels like a lottery almost, and you know, I had no expectation I was ever going to publish a book. I really didn't.
And I think it's great that they, you know, that you were able to do these three books with Phil. I think that fans of J.W. and fans of Brady, I certainly have anyway, as fans of both, really have enjoyed these stories. It's a new dimension. You get to see, you know, different things. And I think the way you did it, although I didn't realize what the genesis was, which was preserving your friendship, is a very interesting way of doing it, where you each kept your own integrity and identity and kind of edged things together. So we just did an event for Dave Barry and Ridley Pearson, and their Peter Pan books that they're writing together, the three of them, they actually just overwrote each other, which may be the way you said you were working with your Linda, collaborator. And that, Ridley, I remember saying that it was a true test of their friendship and trust, that that they could do that, and at the end, when it was done, that neither of them knew who had actually written what.
Well, I think that probably would be the case of the book that Linda and I did too. I'm not going to do that again with anybody.
Well, but I mean, you and Phil obviously evolved. You know,
but we also had that little commercial thought. Phil has a bunch of readers. I have a bunch of readers. J.W. Jackson has a lot of fans, and his family, and Martha's Vineyard, and Brady presumably has fans and so forth. A book with both of them. Again, we double our readership. A lot of people have told me that they've discovered me by these books and vice versa.
I'm sure it was vice versa. Plus, you had all that stuff in common. You had the fishing in common. You had the love of the wilderness. You know, you had similar values. So it wasn't. In a way, it was kind of funny because your guys were more compatible with each other than maybe with other people in their lives. So you didn't get a lot of sparks of conflict, which you had to find the conflict driving the story in other ways.
Yeah, most of the conflicts are external. It was interesting because on a few occasions, I can't think of a specific example now, but I remember the conversations. One of them had to do with I had an idea of some danger befalling JW's kids, and Phil said, "No, I'm not going to do that."
That's true. He never did put the kids in jeopardy, did he?
Never did. And I know exactly where he was coming from. He didn't want to think about it.
Right.
It's just the kind of guy he was. And I said, Phil, we need conflict. We need da-da-da-da-da. He said,
find it somewhere else.
Somewhere else we're going to do that. So.
Tell me a little bit about your writing school. I know you published a book, we published a book, republished a book you had written called Elements of Style?
Elements of Mystery Fiction. It was.
I'm thinking Strunk and Wagner or whatever.
Well, no, it was supposed to be. You were supposed to think. My original title was Elements of Mystery. You say Elements of Style, Elements of Mystery, and people were supposed to think of that, but in the history of that book, it became the Elements of Mystery Fiction.
Okay.
Sylvia Burak did that. Did you know Sylvia?
I don't.
Well, she was the editor of The Writer magazine for years and years and years, based in Boston, like the most old-fashioned magazine you could ever had. But anyway, what was your question?
Well, we republished the book with a revised edition, and it's still in print.
Yep.
But you and Vicki teach a writing workshop or writing school in New Hampshire, don't you?
Well, it's in abeyance now. This year, 2007. Our concept was we live on a farm on a dirt road in New Hampshire.
Okay.
We got a barn and dirt, stone walls and all that whole stuff.
And a groundhog, because you write to me. You write to me about that groundhog every February. I get emails from you about the groundhog.
We can't forget Groundhog Day. So yeah, we a couple of years ago we thought that I teach writing at Clark University. I've been teaching writing, and Vicki's a very astute critic and a good teacher. She used to be a teacher too, and we thought it'd be fun to have a series of workshops at our house, a weekend workshop where people would come and we would intensely talk about writing and their writing, and we did that. And people who came from all over, they came from California and the Midwest and so forth. Well, but you know how it is. It's a business, and we had to advertise and so forth. It was anyway, it was so much work. It was just a lot of work.
Right.
For not a whole lot of money.
And it cut into your own writing time.
And it cut into our own writing time.
Gotcha.
There was a lot of stress involved in it, and there were a lot of, we had people staying at a bed and breakfast nearby, and then the bed and breakfast went to hell, and just a lot of stuff.
A lot of logistical problems, right?
So I said to Vicki, let's take a year off, 2007, and
evaluate.
Reconnoiter and see if there's something else we might want to do. She's a whiz on computers, and I think there might be some way that we can do this kind of thing online or something like that.
Do you use your own book, The Elements of Mystery Style, as part of the course?
Yeah, that was in the gift basket.
Excellent. By the way, I saw that Vicki has won the Daphne du Maurier Award.
Yes.
Tell me about that for a moment. What was the title?
I don't know anything about the award, and we didn't know anything about it either. Typical. I don't know what it's typical of, Barbara. I want to say it's typical of the publishing world, or typical of something. She got an email from somebody in the sales department at her publisher saying, "Oh, you've been nominated for the Daphne du Maurier Award."
It's the best suspense novel?
Yeah.
I think it would be with du Maurier.
That's exactly what it was. And Vicki, of course, said, "Hey, great, what's that?" And no one seemed to know. And anyway, she won.